So much of the meaning and wonder of this holiday and holy season can be easily hidden from us. Even with this new creative digital presentation of our liturgy, Rosh Hashanah remains a mystery, buried in centuries of texts, shrouded in languages foreign to us, concealed in theology, mythology, and philosophy. Many, if not most of us, are familiar only with a simplified understanding. Tonight begins Rosh Hashanah, the birthday of the world and the first day of a new year. Yet regardless of whether we were born Jewish or chose Jewish, whether we learned of Rosh Hashanah as children or later in life, we know Judaism, its meaning and its intention always dives deeper than the surface. In its essence, Rosh Hashanah can be summed up into three simple Hebrew words: Hayom Hara Tolam. Today, the world begins anew. But what does that really mean? Logically, we know that the problems and possibilities of yesterday will still be there tomorrow. But this year, perhaps more than any other year in our lifetimes, we need a new world. The world we lived in yesterday was sick, body, mind, and soul. From the microscopic to the cosmic, each of us at some point over the last year has felt and seen the threats to justice, to truth, to community support, to living with good intentions and living up to the best in ourselves and seeing it in others. If today is the day that the world begins anew, then we pray, Avinu Malkeinu. We need a world of health, a world of honesty, a world of safety at home and safety when we're on the move. We need the world to change. Please let Rosh Hashanah bring with it a promise of that possibility. And if today is the day that the world begins anew, then we know, despite the fervency of our prayers, tomorrow will be no different unless we do something. Our tradition also gives us a guide for that action: imagination. The imaginative spirit that has been present in Judaism's ancient roots has fed into its many branches and movements of today. From the early days of Abraham to our own modern era, tomorrow we will hear just one of those moments, as our Torah reading will recount Abraham taking his son Isaac to Mount Moriah under God's command. Abraham will build the altar, light the fire, and brandish the knife, all while Isaac will wonder where the sheep is to sacrifice. Seemingly at the last minute, an angel will come and tell Abraham that he has proven his faith and fidelity to God, to not sacrifice Isaac, and instead to sacrifice the ram stuck by its horns in a nearby bush. The story of the Akedah has been told and retold 1,000 different times in 1,000 different ways. Some of my favorite retellings have been from Isaac's perspective, who usually takes the role of a passive character in our Torah. One retelling comes from an Israeli satirical comedy group who has reimagined biblical scenes and moments of Jewish history into a series called HaYehudim Ba'im, The Jews Are Coming. They show Abraham as a kooky old man walking to the altar site with his young son Isaac, all while having a conversation with God. Isaac, unable to hear God's side of the conversation, asks his father what's happening. But Abraham shushes him, saying, "The adults are talking." Isaac begs to go home, and Abraham binds him and begins to sharpen the knife on a nearby rock. Abraham continues to receive unheard instructions from God, and Isaac cries out, "Dad, Dad, Abraham," making his voice echo between the rocks. "Hineni," Abraham responds, as if the call was from God. "It's me, God," Isaac continues. "Release Isaac immediately." Looking up to the sky, Abraham hears something Isaac cannot. He nods, shrugs, laughs, and says, "Do you know how much time it took me to climb this mountain?" Then Abraham looks at Isaac, looks at the rope restraining him, and asks, "Don't you have homework due tomorrow?" What a wonderful retelling of an ancient story. What a powerful moment for Isaac. Restrained by powers beyond his control and understanding, carefully observing his surroundings, and employing some imaginative problem solving, Isaac creates an opportunity to ensure his tomorrow. It is now Isaac who travels the path of heroic protagonist, returning home but forever changed through his discovery of self and his role in the unfolding of our history. In 5780, we too have felt restrained by powers beyond our control and understanding. We too have been carefully observing our surroundings. But so many of us have struggled with imagination. Circumstance has left us frozen. Shock has left us silent. Disbelief has sapped us of our potential. We became passive in the grand story of our lives, waiting and praying for something to change, but having little influence over the outcome. For too many of us, our imagination for positive progress has become stagnant. The world keeps turning, but we dare not imagine tomorrow. Our tradition provides us Isaac and a place to look where we can only see restrictive reality. Now more than ever, we must look to those for whom imagination is the primary lens through which they see the world, to our children. Throughout my years working with children and adults who are kids at heart, I have learned from them that the world is truly filled with abundant potential. Through the eyes of a child, there is no question too ridiculous to ask, no potential that is too distant to reach, no circumstance that is too complex to understand. A child's history book is filled with blank pages, waiting to be filled with experiences that they craft and create. This has always been true and has become even more evident in this world defined by pandemic, racism, ideological divisiveness, and growing economic disparity. In the last 6 months of quarantine, protests, riots, campaigns, isolation, anger, and fear, I have seen the youth of our community, your children, imagine and take control of their world in new and amazing ways, creating a world where reality and potential find new balance, and showing us adults what is truly possible. I've seen high school students, Claire Schwartz and Elle Rubenstein, channel their passion for justice into teaching their fellow teens how to engage in our political and legislative systems, even before they're old enough to vote. I've seen 12-year-old Ella Marks promote love and compassion with lawn signs across the country, and remain true to her cause even when some chose to respond with senseless and larcenous spite. I've seen Stevenson Sr. Cameron Hirschhout take on more leadership roles with our regional and national youth group, NIFTY, helping to create a digital Jewish community just as powerful as the in-person one. I've seen 8th grader Michael Nagel take on the cause of unnecessary hunger in our own backyards, helping to provide hundreds of meals through our Feed the Hungry program. I've seen Mason Cornwell and Jack Weinberg be the first to envision a new way to become bar mitzvah, bringing family and friends close online while remaining home in health. Every day over the last year, children have shown us how to use imagination to create a future that allows for us to celebrate, repair, and establish the world in which we pray to live. Every day, the creative potential of biblical Isaac lives and breathes right next to us, reminding us that the tomorrow of our imagination is always a possibility. On Rosh HaShanah, the world begins anew, yes, but the truth is that every day of the year is brimming with that same potential. This holiday only reminds us to look for it. It feels appropriate then that this day of renewed imagination begins at night. Not long from now, each of us will close our eyes and the world of our dreams will come into focus. A world where the only limit is our imagination. May you dream of a 5781 where compassion outweighs hate, where faith is placed in goodness and trust is affirmed. May you find joy and inspiration. May you be reminded of your own imaginative potential and pursue its creation. Tonight, may your dreams be sweet, because tomorrow we work to begin the world anew. Shana Tova.